And I think you could probably clever
Right.
enough, yeah. How much of that is guided? Do you have like lawyer consultants? Like how much realism do you sacrifice for story?
So far, so good. Mark Guggenheim, actually, who is a fine writer in his own, did No Ordinary Family for ABC. He also has written a lot of Spider-Man comics. He's written a lot of other stuff for DC and Marvel. Also law degree, also lawyer. So terrific. I get him on the phone and he's there 24/7, eager to help and vetting the stuff. Any mistakes that are in there are my fault, but anything that works and is accurate is on him.
It's good to have that backup
Yeah.
too. As I read like more and more superhero comics, I'm learning that the type of heroes I like aren't the brooding, aren't the depressed, aren't the.
Yeah.
I get that stuff's necessary sometimes, and it can move characters along. But Daredevil's turning it around.
Yeah.
He's embracing the joy of his powers.
Yeah.
Do you think that mainstream comics will kind of go more in this direction, or do you hope that they will?
I don't know. It would be nice. I've been fighting this fight for 20 years. I did the same thing with Flash. I was just like I don't make him grim, don't make him dark, just make Flash a guy who enjoys his powers and goes out and does good things and enjoys it. And it seemed to have some minor repercussion, but there will always be a huge amount of superhero comics that are targeted specifically towards, ostensibly towards brooding 17-year-old teenage boys who don't want happy, light stuff. They want to be Sith Lords. And that, now I say ostensibly 17, we're actually targeting a bunch of 40-year-olds, but still, you get my point.
It kind of sometimes can be the same thing.
Yeah, 40s going on 17s, but they all want to be Sith Lords. Yes, they don't want to be bright, happy, shiny. They want to be grim and dark. And so, look, I don't care. I just want there to be a variety of comics out there. I want there to be characters who do good things because they're motivated by things other than revenge, because they're motivated in a good way. There's this huge movement in superhero comics in the last 4 or 5 years, where, especially at DC, where every character has to be motivated by the horrible death of a loved one, and there's no other acceptable motivation for being a superhero. That it has to be some sort of god-awful tragedy in your family. And the thing is, that not only is it repetitive, but it kind of does a disservice, because that's sort of like saying to cops and firefighters and EMTs and soldiers that you
don't have any motivation.
You don't have any motivation.
You really shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, people do things for a lot of different reasons. Obviously people need reasons to do things. People need reasons to be a superhero. People need emotionally valid reasons that aren't just, I'm going to put on a suit and fight crime. That nobody would really do that. But still, there's some nobility to being able to do things on behalf of other people and not just on behalf of yourself. And that's one of the things I like about Daredevil. He's not doing this for himself. He's doing this for other people.
So tell me about your favorite Daredevil run and also how it influenced what you're writing now.
The stuff I read mostly when I was really into Daredevil was the Frank Miller stuff, because I like the noir quality. I also like the fact that it had more humor in it than most people remember. But that's not the biggest influence on me. The biggest influence for Daredevil for me was a short story, a prose short story that was written in the late 70s. Marvel at the time was doing a series of novelizations of their characters, written by some of their top writers. And one of the books was a short story collection. It had like an Avenger story by Jim Shooter, and it had an X-Men story by Mary Jo Duffy, I think. I forget who else is in there. But there's a Daredevil story in there. It's a prose story. It was written by a guy named Kyle Christopher, who was a pseudonym for Marty Pasco, who was one of my favorite comics writers of the 70s. And that was the Rosetta Stone for me, because it really talked about what it's like to get up like, it starts with Matt Murdock waking up in the morning. And you don't really know, if you're not hip to the character, you don't know he's blind yet, but you're getting the sense of how he perceives this, the alarm, the scent of the air in the morning that tells him what the weather's like before he even can get to the window, the taste of the coffee, and really getting into what it's like to be in that head. And boy, I kept coming back to that. That is the whole key to writing Daredevil to me. When I walk around the city, when I do the things I do on a regular basis, I'm constantly keeping an eye out for Interesting. How would Daredevil perceive this? What would he see, quote unquote, here? What challenge would this, provoke for him? Or anything I see on television, skydivers. Oh, what would that be like if you were,
move through the world?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What would, where are the disadvantaged places for him to be? Where are the places that are advantageous? But thank you, Marty Pasco, because you helped define Daredevil for me.
And now I have a really important question.
Yeah?
What would Matt and Murdock do with an iPad?
There you go. Daredevil, this is also something you'll see more in year 2. And this is something, again, we've spent a lot of year 1 really establishing his powers. What I really want to get into in year 2 is, unlike most comics characters, Daredevil's a character who actually gets less powerful over time, in a sense. Because, not physically, he still has the same powers.
Absolutely.
But think about how much of our lives we live on screen now. How much of our lives we live virtually. Yes, there are cell phones for the blind. Yes, there is technology, but it's not
the same, no.
It's not that. It's a constant thing of people reading things on screens. People, newsprint. He used to be able to read newsprint, but he can't anymore, because even if you're not reading on screen, printing is not by newsprint anymore. It's offset printing, which means there's no
raised anything.
Exactly, there's no texture to it. I'm thinking about all these things constantly, like how has the world changed and how has technology left Daredevil's powers behind and made it even more difficult for him to maneuver in the world. And I'm going to hit a lot more of that in year 2.
Yeah, and by then, everybody will be carrying iPads.
Exactly.
They almost already are, so
yeah.
That'll be an interesting challenge.
Yeah.
This is Amy Ratcliffe. Thanks for watching this interview with Mark Waid. You can catch this and more comics on BlastoffComics.com. And be sure to tune in for all of January for Daredevil month.